And so we see in this particular vegetable, you take any part of it, you blow it up, you'll get the whole image again. And as Blavatsky pointed out, atoms are called vibrations in occultism. That's why we have things like string theory today. Everything is a musical harmony, and that's why the waves and particles, the interchangeability, they're basically notes, or like musical notes. So in golden physics and nature's subtle mean, early last year, actually January 7th, 2010, a startling discovery was made at the very heart of quantum mechanics. Physicists at 3 British labs in Oxford, Bristol, and Rutherford Laboratory and their collaborators at a German lab empirically discovered, using Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, that the golden mean is in fact the proportional symmetry principle at the very center of quantum theory. This confirms the theoretical work of my good friend Muhammad al-Nashi, who is probably the greatest physicist alive, who has been working with the golden section to solve all the most difficult puzzles in physics. In fact, here's his paper, Is Quantum Space a Random Cantor Set with a Golden Dimension at the Core? You see the date? 1994. Twice he's been nominated for a Nobel Prize. I have no doubt whatsoever in the future will be our Nobel Prize winner. And you see a note on the subtle mean in physics. If you look down here, you'll see he's talking about the golden number, the golden section to the 3rd power. Here in another paper by El-Nashi, the Fibonacci code behind superstrings and what are called p-branes, an answer to Michio Kaku's fundamental question. Kaku asked some really pertinent questions, but the answer is already known, and it's in here, and it's all golden ratio is the answer. The same thing has been discovered in genetics. And so the nucleotides, when they form and organize, it's all Fibonacci, they organize by Fibonacci numbers. Anytime you have Fibonacci numbers, you have an approximation to the golden ratio. Nature likes to use whole numbers. Hence, the golden ratio gets transmitted into Fibonacci's and what we'll see later as Lucas numbers. Now, John Martin, who I mentioned earlier, really the founder of all the wooden books and is the editor and really the designer of my little book, which won a first place in New York at the New York Book Show for design. Now, here's what he's discovered. If you take the orbits of the planets and you take the mean orbit, yes, they are elliptical. That's not far from a circle. You average it out over the year. You do that for the Earth, you do that for Mercury, and guess what? They're linked together by the golden section squared. Not only that, if you take the diameter of the Earth, or its circumference, average it out, you take the mean diameter, the Earth and Mercury are in the same golden section squared ratio, 2.618039, etc., 99.999%. Furthermore, if you take, now this is through observation, if you observe Venus over an 8-year period, now think of the Fibonacci's coming up here, it forms a pattern that forms a 5-fold rosette. You get a pentagram. On Venus, that takes 13 years to occur. Everything is linked harmonically throughout the entire system. And so if you look at the relationships between the various orbits of the planets, you begin to see these incredible, beautiful patterns in organization. We just looked at that one with Venus and the Earth, but you see it's all harmonics that's going on. Now here I am with Buckminster Fuller's, probably his primary disciple, Keith Critchlow, teacher of sacred geometry. He's the one who designed Krishnamurti's center in England. Brilliant, brilliant man, the best sacred geometer I've ever been with. And I've learned much from him at his various Kairos sacred geometry meetings. Here we're in Crestone, Colorado, at one of his Kairos summer schools. You see we're forming out of bamboo these huge pentagrams. We're going to form these huge platonic solids and Archimedean solids. Here I am with his grandson, and we're in England at another Kairos summer school. Now, Saturday, we're going to do not only drawings, but we're going to do some geometric solids. We're not going to get as sophisticated as this. If we do things in the future, maybe we can build towards this. But you can see when you nest the solids together, and this is what George Henry Felt was getting at with a two-dimensional drawing. You do it in three dimensions as well, and you get the harmonics of the ratios of root 2, root 3, root 5, which is used to get the golden ratio, and then the golden section or golden ratio galore everywhere. Here I am with Keith Critchlow and another one of my teachers, John Michel, who's now passed, brilliant man, beautiful artist. Both of them are great Platonists, and we're looking at some of John's paintings. Beautiful book if you want to see literature that's wonderful and beautifully illustrated. His Sacred Geometry, How the World is Made. And he did a drawing for me before he died. Let's see. And it's an interesting poem. You may be able to see it, but I'll read it for you. New Light on Phi. A book I greatly value is the pride of my collection. I just can't believe he did this for me, is Mr. Olsen's recent work upon the golden section. It is something that could change the world if they could understand it. Now, he wrote this in such a way, as you back up and you read it again, if they could understand it, I'm certain the authorities of long ago would have banned it. The secret it exposes is the key to life's creation. I can't explain it in a line, so here's an illustration. He did a beautiful rough drawing. Here is Benjamin Brighton, and my golden section book would not have occurred without his superior work. His contribution was incredible. In fact, in the appendix, the last appendix, second to the last, further Lucas magic, you'll find things there I don't know any scientist understands. And it is stunning. And it links music with the rhythms of the cosmos and its geometry. And of course, then here's the golden section book. These are illustrations taken from it, beautifully designed. Most of it by, the credit has to go to John Martineau, actually. Some of the images like Zeissing here and Leonardo da Vinci, we took lots from others. Then Houston Smith has been a big factor. Here I'm with Houston and Ram Dass. Houston is now going to do the forward to my new book, The Divine Proportion, The Mathematical Perfection of the Universe. While I was with him for a summer, I did this work, Plato and the Divine Proportion, Ascent to the First Principles. This is the cover that we've already designed for the new book. And as I said, that should be coming out in the spring of 2012. And here I'm with somebody that I would hope that all of you become aware of if you're not already. He is a theosophist, lives in England. He's one of the brightest physicists as well as theosophists I've ever come across. And here is his book, The Mathematical Connection Between Religion and Science. You need to have that in your library here. It is absolutely stunning, and he links subatomic particle physics with the Tree of Life, the Sri Yantra, the I Ching, not just willy-nilly, but he nails it right on the head. And then in Chaotic Climate Dynamics by Selvum, you find that weather turbulence is also all related, again, to golden ratios, nonlinear dynamics. The winding number of a hurricane, and therefore tornado I would assume as well, is 137.5 degrees. It is a living being. Now, Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff have been looking for where is consciousness, and they've been looking at microstructures within cells called microtubules. But what's interesting about the microtubules, where they're finding the quantum mechanics of consciousness, is they're made up of 13 tubulin dimers, 8 spiraling one direction, 5 spiraling the other direction. 13 is to 8, 8 is to 5. These are all golden ratios. In other words, we are tuning forks. It's all resonance. Buddha sits under the bo tree and he goes into samadhi. He goes into resonance, quantum interconnectedness with the entire, presumably, if not universe, certainly the galaxy. So here's the clathrin molecule that's at the tip of the microtubules and at the synaptic cleft. And these clathrins turn out to be buckyballs. They're fullerenes. In other words, as we saw before, where we saw the pentagon surrounded by 5 hexagons, here we see it when they discovered carbon-60. And so you see both the closest packing of space And here's life and consciousness right there. Another good friend, Edgar Mitchell, who also went into samadhi on the way back from the moon and founded the noetic sciences. He made some interesting comments. Well, this is actually, we did a presentation together. His was Frontiers of Consciousness Studies. My interest is in resonance and how the self alters. We die, here's for the Lama present, we die to that ego, but then we re-identify with a greater, whatever that is. So consciousness, resonance, and self-identity. But here's the interesting comments he made in Nature's Mind, the Quantum Hologram. It has been widely accepted in science until recently that the brain was merely a classical computer, incapable of supporting quantum processes. The work of Hameroff and Penrose in isolating and describing microtubules have caused a re-examination of this dogma and renewed interest in uncovering the quantum processes involved in the human being in the brain. I also went up to New York, did a couple workshops up there with Lance Harding. We're going to see later in this presentation Alex Gray, the great visionary artist, and Zachariah Gregory, who did some of the drawings for my Golden Section book. Golden Section and the Canon of Human Proportion. Again, this is what George Henry Felt was really up to. Here I am standing with Lance Harding. This is Alex Gray. This is Dan Duddy, and this is Zachariah Gregory. And here we have the E8. This is kind of the center of what the microstructure of the cosmos probably is like. And as I say, it is all related to golden ratios. Now, in the beginning was the Logos. Now, John, the book, is not just as Bishop Spong recently, we had a very interesting discussion, told me it's a Jewish book. It's also a book that's linked back into the ancient wisdom of the Greeks. And Logos in Greek means ratio. It means relationship. Yes, it can mean word and sound, Shabbat, but it's the principle of mediation, between the extremes, the pattern which connects, conceptual link between the one and the many. And by the way, that's what the golden ratio does. It is the secret of how does the one become many and how do each of the many return unto the one. It's through the bond of the golden section or ratio. So it's the link between unity and diversity. Quest Books has published this book by David Feidler, who will also be going to Alexandria, Egypt, with me and be lecturing there as well, in his book, Jesus Christ, Son of God. So ratio, again, is logos, ratio between two magnitudes. So, for example, 1:2, or you could simply write it as 1/2.